talking about the troubles of like with Ace Attorney games themselves, Gyakuten Saiben. The trouble with it is that every game usually has like an introductory case.
Yeah.
So it gets you used to how you're supposed to play the game.
You always have to fight
Pain.
Pain.
Yeah. But then you have like the next case that comes after it is like, okay, there's this case and it's pretty serious and there's this stuff happening. And then like the third one you play, the next case you play after that seems like it's completely separate because it usually is. And then like the fourth or the fifth case in that same game, somehow everything is tied back to each other, even if they have nothing to do with each other. And they have to do that every time for every game, it feels like. Because otherwise it's not interesting.
That's what they've chosen to do every single time.
And it's got to be just so much work because you're writing like writing a game period has to be an awful lot of work. But writing 4 separate court cases and then making them not have to do anything with each other until you get to the end and you discover. That's, I think, where it's like, God, that's got to be really hard to do. Oh, music.
If I didn't do it, they would spring it on us.
Yeah.
So I figured, why not? I don't know a lot of IPs, so when you go on an anime or video game tangent, I want to be supportive.
Thank you.
That's fair to the conversation.
Well, no, in that case, Molly, I know you know Animal Crossing. Do you know what other video game IPs have you been into?
Anything that my dad could pull out of the discount bin at Blockbuster for the N64.
Nice.
So
Glover.
It was we did not quite have. I don't know if maybe we were just dumb or if this is how the N64 was, but we didn't know how to save things. So we played the first level of Star Fox a heckin' lot. We listened to just the title music of things sometimes. So like my brother does a pitch perfect impression of the Buck Bumble menu song, and Sammy Sosa baseball, or Ken Griffey Jr. I think. It was like this weird like dubstep like. Call me Junior. I'm Ken Griffey Jr. Do you like baseball? I'm Junior. Like, it was terrible. So I know the assets from video games better than I know most video games. But the N64 was a kind of our foundational system. My grandpa had an NES that he got at a boot sale. But apart from that, we were like, oh my gosh, video games apply to us. I imagine y'all have been in the game a lot longer. Like, what was your foundational console as children's?
The Coleco Gemini.
I was on a Super Nintendo.
Game Boy.
I loved the buttons on the front of the Super Nintendo. Those purple slidey things. Was that system?
Yeah, the resets slider was very satisfying, and then the levered eject button was also
chunk.
I loved that they, in Nintendo Power, they specifically said that they had designed the Super Nintendo in such a way to prevent you from putting things on top of it.
Yeah.
Because that had been a problem with the Nintendo Entertainment System. It was this nice flat surface that people would put drinks on.
Yeah, they treated it like a table.
A $200 coaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? So the Super Nintendo was a top loader with curved surfaces everywhere.
Okay. Because, I mean, the real reason why they did the top loader thing was because with the NES, they made the NES the way they did because the Famicom was a top loader. And they were like, if we bring a top loader out in the American market, everyone's going to think it's like the Atari, and they're not going to want to buy it because it just crashed. So make it look like it's living room furniture. Make it look like it's like a VCR or something like that. And so the idea of you flip this thing up, you slide a cartridge in, and you have to push it down was very much like a VHS loading machine. So that whole thing was like, let's do that. And then so many people had problems with the connections when you would slide a cartridge in and you would push it down. How that worked, I think this is so dumb. How it worked is instead of being a ribbon cable that connected the two together, it was literally a set of open contacts on the top and open contacts on the bottom, and when you pushed it down, it clicked into place. They were supposed to touch each other. And if they didn't, then you would get nothing.
Right. I had a friend whose gauntlet cartridge never worked properly. And it had like this weird proprietary shape, the Nintendo shape, right?
Yeah, there
The
was
Gauntlet cartridge had like curves in it.
It was black.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, because it was made by Tengen, and Tengen figured out how to bypass the Nintendo lockout chip, and so which did not win them any love, because Tengen was like, we want to make games, and then Nintendo was like, you can't because you're trash. We're not going to license you an ability to do that. And they're like, well, then we'll just figure out how to do it ourselves and make them. And then they did, and Nintendo went to war with these guys. I don't remember how it worked out. They got sued, but not only did they get sued, I think Nintendo basically went to all the retailers, like the major retailers, and were like, you can't sell their stuff. And if you do, if we find out that you're selling their stuff in your stores, we'll pull all of our stuff.
Right.
So they use their market power like a cudgel, which is not great, but it didn't help that Tengen was making a version of Tetris while the Nintendo also had their version of Tetris, and the Tengen Tetris, as this brings up in chat, Kyodar says, the Tengen version of Tetris actually people think is better.
Huh.
Yeah.
Like, I remember getting a Nintendo very near the end of its life cycle and playing a lot of Castlevania II Simon's Quest, which was an infuriating game.
It's rough. You have to memorize like all the wall chicken locations just to make it through, right?
And it didn't tell you any, like, people say like Dark Souls doesn't hold your hands. No, Simon's Quest sucked.
Did you say wall chickens? Was that the element you just... There's wall chickens? What does that mean?
You'd have to attack parts of the scenery to reveal secret healing items.
There'd be a cooked chicken, not a live chicken.
Okay, good.
Okay. That doesn't make any more sense, but okay.
You don't store cooked chickens in the walls of your ancient mausoleum?
Yeah, right. Wall chickens. Oh, sorry. I was thinking of a different kind of wall chicken.
Yeah. Oh, you were thinking about like friendly giant wall chickens. No.
Yeah.
Super Alfred chicken, yeah.
Like, I remember equipping Dracula's eye and seeing secret platforms.
Yes.
And thinking, why? Why? I've been playing this game for like 4,000 hours.
Give me this one thing. Come on.
Why didn't anyone tell me you could just pop in Dracula's eye?
I never figured out what the white crystal was for. And you get the white crystal pretty fast, and it was like, you're supposed to have this. I'm like, what's it for? It's like, well, then that way someone will talk to you. I'm like, well, what's it for? Like, it's Castlevania II, and I love that game. I want to play it and beat it, because it basically, I never did, because as a child I hated it, but it got its tendrils in me, and it's like, that's what makes me love side-scrolling Castlevania games. And and the Metroidvania style where you explore everywhere, because that was a game where you did that. You didn't just go left to right forever. It was like you could actually walk around this world and try to figure out what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, it was a Metroidvania. But like, if Dark Souls didn't hold your hand, Simon's Quest held your hand in the box where there's pain. Right? And it held your hand there, and you're like, this sucks. Why am I doing this? Why did I pay $80 for this? This was like 4 months worth of allowance.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, we had a NES, a Nintendo, and a Game Boy, but like the only reason we had a Nintendo is because my parents were holding one in the basement for one of the neighbors' kids as like a Christmas hidden gift, and I found it, and I thought that was the thing we were getting for Christmas. I had no idea what it really was. I just knew it was a really cool toy. And so they ended up getting us one later.
After the meltdown?
I don't know if that I melted down so much as they didn't tell me that wasn't ours, or that we were getting one later or something. And the Game Boy was actually my brother's, but I definitely took it all the time.
Yeah, fair.
Someone on the internet is wrong.
Okay.
What?
What?
So can I get my stuff in here, or does somebody else want to tell their story?
The Game Boy camera was really good and I miss it. Sorry, B, you
Oh,
were saying?
Oh, Game Boy camera, yeah. Okay, yeah.
The Gom Jabbar is
It's
the
not the box.
needle they hold to your
Yes,
neck. It
I
is
know.
not the box you put your hand in.
Oh, thank you.
Oh,
Yes.
I wasn't gonna touch it.
Yeah, I was just like compartmentalizing that until it scrolled away and I didn't have to look at it anymore. But yeah, it's the needle.
Frankenstein's the doctor, you guys.
But really, isn't he also the monster?
All men are monsters, Beige. Problem solved.
But have you seen Frankenstein's monster Frankenstein?
Yes.
It's lovely.
It's very conceptual. It swings for some fences.
so Game Boy
This is a thing on
camera.
Netflix, Chad. If you haven't seen it, it's quite a dive. It's actually got a big Zeta energy. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Talk about the Game Boy camera for a while. Please do.
Oh, I mean, I miss the like the little swivel action. I miss the printer, the thing where you could take pictures of your friends and then put them in a side-scrolling combat game.
Yep.
Like, that's all I wanted from gaming was just jib-jab, but then I could print it out on a receipt printer and taunt my parents with it.
Yeah.
You know? Does anybody else remember the thing where you could print your Pokemon Snap pictures onto little foil stickers at the Blockbuster? I remember
Yeah.
those. We freaking did those quite a lot to my dad's chagrin. He was like, I already paid for this game. Why am I paying for it again?
I had to come
Listen.
down here to the island to visit my cousins to play Pokemon Snap, and that was a lot. My cousins all had consoles, or the people that were babysitting me all had consoles.
Because
the,
like,
I did not take my console to a Blockbuster.
Sorry.
go ahead,
Go
Heather.
The Zellers that my parents shopped in repetitively had a Game Boy camera set up, and that was just where I stayed the entire time. And I really wanted that in like the printer because I thought it's still the coolest thing. I don't care how well our technology has advanced. Being able to print things out on receipt paper as little stickers is still just amazing.
Never gets old.
Because like I went from the Super Nintendo to a 386 DX40.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It was cool.
You could run Doom.
I could run Doom, but I mainly kept getting Sierra games because Castlevania had trained me to hate myself.
Right. So like King's Quest, Space Quest?
Yeah, Space Quest, King's Quest,
Space
Quest
Quest
for
was-
Glory.
Police Quest?
I didn't like Police Quest.
I kept forgetting to check the tires.
Yeah, like I remember that, you know, you had to do. I saw a friend play Police Quest where you had to like walk around your police car at the beginning, and if you didn't, it exploded.
No! Why?
Because you didn't check it to see if it was okay to drive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every time you approach your vehicle, as a person with a driver's license, you have to walk around, check all the tires, check to see if there's any obstructions or car
That's-
bombs.
Or car
Like,
bombs.
When you drive in Grand Theft Auto, can you sometimes get hit by a train if you go over the train tracks without looking? Where's the escapism, guys?
But like I went from that to playing like Aces of the Pacific and Aces over Europe,
Wow.
which is like World War II flight sims.
Yeah.
And X-Wing and TIE Fighter, which ruled. But like the flight sims is where I got my learn to play on hard mode thing. Because if you know, they had difficulty sliders, right? To determine how rigorous the simulation was. So on the easy settings, it was like flying an arcade, right? Well, no, it was like, because an arcade is a building, but it was very arcadey. But on the higher difficulty settings, you actually like had to mind your flaps and trim.
You had to pay attention.
Yeah, you had to pay attention. And then I also played like, like Alpha Centauri. Everyone, I'll talk your ears off about it. Alpha Centauri. but it ruled.
I played the original Sims, as I recall, which may be why video games kind of stopped entering our house at a certain point. Because my dad was like kind of anti-video game and anti-salt. He's just kind of a jock and didn't understand how to raise nerd kids, and I do feel for him. But like, I was definitely the kid that played The Sims that would, build a house and then take out all the doors and fill the room with stoves, just to watch people burn. Take the ladders out on the pool, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And this was, in the late 90s, early aughts, when sort of that discourse about like, oh, video games and violence with the children. And so this probably fit right into that for my parents of like, well, our daughter is going to become a real estate developer and then burn people alive with stoves. So we can't allow that.
It's what it's teaching you to do.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Inflicting torture on your Sims.
Yeah, they're in the pocket of big stove.
Yeah. Video games taught me how to make how to use a sunglasses cleaning cloth and some dental floss to make some very tasteful underwear.
Go on.
That was Leisure Suit Larry.
Oh, okay.
That was you want to talk point and click games.
I do want to talk point and click games.
But not those ones.
No.
Putt? No?
Yeah, the only thing I learned.
Anybody?
The only thing I learned from video games when I was a kid was where to find walkthroughs to find out what you had to rub on the gate to get it to open because there's no key.
No, I did play a lot of educational games like Math Blaster and stuff, but there was Operation Neptune. Definitely gave me a leg up on math. I was like an elementary school kid, and I knew what a square root was.
Damn.
Ooh.
All the other children were very impressed.
In northern BC.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Does anybody in the room or in chat remember the Rodney Allen Greenblatt games, like Wonder Window or Rodney's Fun Screen?
No.
They were very
No.
formative for me, and I can't find a ROM of them, I can't find nothing. But like Rodney Allen Greenblatt, he did like Parappa the Rappa eventually.
Yeah.
which I
Oh,
never
okay.
played.
Okay.
Yeah. And I have his graphic, he wrote a graphic novel about Buddhism. He's all around an awesome dude. But so like Wonder Window and Rodney's Fun Screen were kind of like mini games, like not even like, there weren't even games. They were just kind of like, look, things you can click, interactive, but on your computer.
Right.
Like just look what a game can do. And so there were just little scenarios you could enter. There was one that was a profile of a man who had a nose the size of a truck. And you would just put things in it. And it was like, a couch, a TV, a cactus, a dog. And you could just keep stuffing stuff in there and he would go every time. And then you would put in a pepper shaker and it would go and all get sneezed out. That was the level of play.
All right.
Just, play, not objective based. There was a pet shop where you could poke all the animals and they'd all make noise. There was just a model of a head called Mr. Rotato Head. Oh, good news for me in Slack. You can play it.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And also a different game. I got my sex talk from a video game. So, technology. I've been an online kid since day one, I guess.
So
That's my experience with point and click games.
I thought that Rock Pusher wrote about that they got with her IBM Aptiva, not the Adventures of Hyperman. I thought that said the Adventures of Hi-Man, and I thought it was like, oh, was that the sex talk you got? Was from the Adventures of Hi-Man?
Oh, no, I know Adventures of Hyperman.
Okay.
This is a terrarium.
I can go grab it. I have the disc downstairs. It was called 9 Month Miracle.
Wow.
I do not know where it would fall in the Twitch TOS. Otherwise, I would stream it.
That's fair. We had a Coleco Gemini, and we also had a Commodore 64, roughly around the same time. Both of those things being very interesting. I think this 64 we got a little bit later, but because you got to keep in mind that's like 1985 when these things show up in my life. And the Coleco Gemini was interesting because it was a ColecoVision, but you could also plug Atari games into it. And Atari was mad about that because that would be like making a Nintendo that you could plug Sega Genesis games into.
Yeah.
So Atari was furious, and they took Coleco to court and Coleco won that battle, if I remember correctly. It was like, but they only did that once. They only made a thing like that once. They didn't end up making like a console that you could play like all sorts of different cartridges and stuff on. They just did that the one time.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really like, I didn't know anything about that. I just knew at the time that's like I had a whole bunch of games I could pull from that my friends couldn't. If they had Ataris and stuff, they couldn't do all this ones we were getting from everywhere, and I could borrow from like all sorts of people. But then, yeah, that was great for a short period of time until I realized exactly what a pain in the ass it wasn't that great. And then my mom took it over and played Mousetrap on it all the time. And just at that point, it was like, now my mother is the gamer in the house. And we never, we had to try to find time on it when she wasn't playing it.
Well, that's like my dad, who played Tetris a lot and Mahjong and Solitaire.
Yeah.
And got really good at Minesweeper.
My parents really liked Tetris, but what they really sat down and played that you had to fight for them for the TV was Dr. Mario. And my mom would play on the hard levels. She'd start at level 20. And whenever Dad came home, it was like they're playing 2-player. But other video games, they did not understand why you would want to play the plumber running along the ground and why he was stomping on the weird little brown things. And but that's what they thought video games was just basically Mario. So I think they didn't bother looking into any other video games I played.
No, Mom, it's just a game where you run along and you eat a mushroom that you find growing out of a super pipe that makes you feel big.
Yeah.
And then you jump into the sewer.
Yeah. My mom liked to draw maps or like keep notes about the video games and stuff.
Ooh.
So we had like extensive details about like Link to the Past and stuff. But her favorite was the Jurassic Park for the SNES.
Oh, wow.
She was like mapping out where all the raptor eggs were. And that one was complicated because it had some first person aspects.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then top down is,
That's so cool.
deeply embedded in my brain.
Without leaving this conversation, we should probably also mention that we have a bit over 5 minutes left in the Desert Bus Trio prize pack.
Yeah.
The set of 3 nail polishes. If you enter a donation of $8.53 or a positive integer multiple thereof in the next 5 minutes, you'll be entered to win that. And they're really gorgeous nail polish colors. And once that time has elapsed, we'll draw for it.
That'll mean you're going to need a donor account to do that. And you can go to desertbus.org and sign up for a donor account. When you do that, we need your full mailing address. And we might need a phone number as well. It might be a good idea to include that phone number just in case. But we definitely need a full name, a first name and a last name. And while you're staring at the display name field, it'll have your email address in it most likely. Wipe that out and put in a display name. Maybe you want to use your Twitch handle. Maybe you want to use some other sort of fun nickname. It's the name that'll come up on screen when you donate, and it's the name that'll come up should you win.
It's also the name we'll call you by. So
Yeah.
it's important that we know what to call you.
Also, use things you would be fine with your grandparents referring to you as, I guess. Please,
With your postal worker delivering to your home.
yeah, please don't write a display name that would be objectionable, because this is obviously a thing we do. I'm trying not to curse my hardest, and we're doing this as a thing for the kids, and I would like to not have to say things, be forced to say somebody's offensive or innuendo-ish name. Risque, that's a better word than innuendo-ish, which isn't even a word.
Innuendish.
Yeah, that's why they took it out of the skills for D&D 3.
And I take back what I said about my dad not being into games. He played Myst, and I asked him to stop because the music scared me.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah, and headphones would have solved that problem. Neither of us thought that far ahead.
Man, I remember, this is a weird tangent based on that. In my house, my parents had their stereo, a amplifier and a tuner and a record player. is a stereo, and so I wanted to use a set of headphones one time to listen to something somewhere else. And my dad's like, "Oh, I have some headphones," and he went and he got me some headphones that were like cans with like whatever, and they weren't great. They were just old cans with the like these kind of things, but just big and fluffy. And they had a 1/4-inch jack on the end of them. And I'd never seen that before. And I'm like, what am I supposed to? He's like, you just plug that into your Walkman. I'm like, but no. And he's like, oh yeah, you're right. You need the, right, okay. But I'm like, what is this? And he's like, go downstairs and look at the stereo. So I went downstairs and looked at the stereo and saw, oh my God, like, why did you have such giant plugs? He's like, that's just what they made. Why are you asking me that? I can't give you a good reason as to why the 1/4-inch jack, like to this day, still like we still use it. It's still very handy.
Well, like the headphone jack, right? The part of it to one side of the black band is the negative, and then the other side on the interior is the positive, right? So maybe having a larger jack allows them to make more stable connections.
I think,
or with better separation.
It definitely is like one of those things that, because I don't think the 3.5 millimeter stereo jack really existed as a thing that long ago, like that long ago, like the 1960s and whatnot.
No, the 3.5 is like 100 years old, isn't it?
Is it really? Well, the 1/4-inch is like 100 years old.
Oh, okay.
This boy here, this fat lovely, is definitely like 100 years, because they're using it. My mother used these all the time when she was working for BC Tel. She was.
Oh, right. Yeah, on a plug board.
Yeah, exactly. That's a thing that I always forget about until it comes up in my mind. It's like, my mother used to be a telephone operator for many years. And you can tell, if you talk to her on the phone, she has a killer telephone voice. Like, she has that kind of voice you get, like, hello, thank you for calling such and such. It's like the perfect telephone voice, which is what makes talking to her in real life so weird, because it's like, because she's like very bombastic and a lot of fun. And but when she answers the phone, she's like, hello. Like, it's very kind of like, I'm not going to scare you. Please talk to me.
Number, please.
I'd like to order a pizza.
I mean, when she was working at BC Tel, they weren't doing a lot of this. They still had a lot of like controlled whatever. Like, they were doing, I think, some packet switching and stuff by that point anyway. But she was also living in northern Alberta, so they might have still had a lot of this going on.
Yeah, my grandma worked for Norwestel.
Ooh.
Who's currently getting a pension from that.
That's and probably a forever pension too, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. My grandfather worked for Canfor, the pulp and paper people.
I know Canfor.
Yeah. Well, Prince George.
Yeah.
But also my dad worked for the mills. Yeah.
So he worked there for many years. He was one of the stores people. And he worked there for years upon years upon years. And when he retired, go out on a pension. And it was, when I'm young, you don't think about that. And then when I was in my 20s and I was like in unions myself, and now I'm collecting pensions and stuff, and I'm talking to him about this, and I just realized, I'm like, you're living a really good life. You have like a really nice condo. Like, you guys sold out of your house and did whatever, and you have like a really nice condo, and you have money to go travel. You go to Reno like every year, and you go gamble a bit. You go do this and go do that. And they never have to think or worry about money. It ever seemed like they never had to do that. And I was like, and he was working as a stores guy for 30 years for Canfor, and he had a fully vested pension, and he was looked after for the rest of his life. And when he passed away, my grandmother inherited that pension, because that's how that pension worked. And I was like, what is this? And it's like, well, that's fine too. But your grandmother, you don't know. She worked for Woodward's. She was
yeah, my grandmother did too.
She was a retail person working for Woodward's, and she had a fully vested pension.
Yeah.
And it was paying out all this time.
She had a forever discount.
Oh yeah.
Even into Zellers when Woolworths became that company.
Well,
or
Woodward's
got bought by or whatever.
I think Zellers acquired Woolworths or Woolco, one of the two, and then Woodward's. I don't think they got acquired by Zellers. Maybe they did.
Just remember, kids, you don't miss labor jobs. You miss union jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. My dad got laid off from Canfor and then had to pivot into the oil industry.
Damn.
and now he's like a subcontractor. So all of his money is his own problem, according to the government.
All right. Jesus.
Well, should we do the draw for the nail polish?
If we can.
Yeah.
It may have not been enough.
Oh,
know there's-
right.
I know-
Yes. Yes,
know
there's a
there's-
grace period.
Yeah. But if we can, we should.
Hmm.
And we have 3 more minutes to go on
Yeah.
that grace period.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine then.
But it has closed, and thank you to everybody who did enter that.
Mhm.
When you think about it, I think my mom would have really liked the Professor Layton games if I could have convinced her to do other video games, because I just remembering when we got a computer in the house and
Yeah.
it had free cell. And my mom played a lot of free cell, and then she found out that supposedly
Am I close enough?
you can
No,
get
come on.
every you can win every game of free cell that exists because of the way the cards are laid out. And so she started to like
Close.
input manual
Yes!
numbers.
Bust up.
Yes.
Can you still roll? Yes, you did it.
Nice.
Okay, sorry. Continue.
You could put in the thing to say what number of game you wanted to play for layout on the free cell.
Right. Yeah.
And so she was going in one by one in order and then writing down a note of where she was last so that she wouldn't lose her spot, and trying to defeat every single level that existed.
Whoa.
Wow.
Every permutation of a deck of cards.
Yeah.
32,000 games, I think. Right.
I think she only got to about 5,000.
Jesus.
Whoa. Yeah, my mom only plays Minecraft now.
Nice.
Wow.
Cool. I like that.
Vanilla Minecraft.
Really? Nilla? Wow.
Wow.
Hardcore.
We got some. My mother got a DS,
Mhm.
a DS Lite, a pink one. We have it now. She doesn't have it anymore because she was like, "No, I don't play games anymore." She's on Facebook all the time playing games.
Yeah, but
So-
she thinks of those as separate.
Exactly, right? So it's like, that's fine. But yeah, so she gave me that, but for a while it was like, she was all about Brain Age and Clubhouse games and like all of those kind of, because I was like, you might really like this and crosswords and like all this kind of thing. It's like, I can put all this on here and you can just click, 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 click and do that. And when we got her the version of Brain Age, it was Brain Age 2, that came with the Dr. Mario virus buster
Oh, yeah.
that was touch based. I think she tried that out too and really liked that. And she was like, "Wait, but why don't I just have a copy of Dr. Mario?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, you make a good point, Mom. You need Tetris. Oh my God!" So we got her a copy of Tetris DS, and she loved that. So because she used to play Tetris on my Game Boy and wake me up after I'd been asleep for about an hour, because she'd be like, "The space shuttle's taking off," and I'm like, "What?" Imagine being like a 10-year-old kid and having your mom run into your room, Southern Alberta, and yelling at you that the space shuttle is taking off.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
It's the Tetris Game Boy
And
one.
it's like, what? And I had to go to her to see it because she had it plugged in. And I was like, oh, cool. What's going on? What is this? And she's like, it's Tetris. I'm like, okay. and she's like, you can go back to bed. I'm like, okay. And I was like, that's real neat, but I had no idea why.
10-year-old Beach.
She was that much better at the game.
Okay.
That's like the Mitch Hedberg cinnamon incense of gaming,
Yeah.
right? The space shuttle's taking off, and you're like, you wake up, and then you're immediately disappointed.
Yeah. I'll grab my
Because it's just
astronaut suit.
Cinnamon bun incense.
I've heard that story from the other generational side of people waking up their parents to be like, look, my high score in Frogger. But I've never heard it from the other direction.
My childhood growing up, my dad was a software engineer, and so like I was like, hey, check out this video game. He's like, I work computers all day, don't care, not interested.
Yeah.
And then in like 2009, I want to say, he came up to Seattle to visit me, and I showed him Portal,
Oh.
Oh.
and his like electric, like his like physics background just like kicked in. Like he's left-handed, and he like took my like heavily like conformed right-handed logic mouse, like put it on the other side, and was like, how can I install this on Linux? Like, tell me how we can make this happen. he came to visit me a couple years ago, and I showed him Rock Band. He's like, "How much does a 360 cost? I guess I'm buying a 360 so I can play Rock Band now." Like, so like later on in his life, like when Portal 2 came out, we bought it and played together immediately, that kind of thing. So like he came around eventually, and to the point where your parents apparently started. But yeah, growing up, he was just like not interested, don't care.
Yeah.
Man, I need to find somebody. I need to become friends again with somebody who has Rock Band, so I can play the drums in maps.
Oh, loved that.
Like, because playing the drums in maps just felt really good.
Yeah, in college, I ran the video game club, which was meant to be like a video game design club, and then you would have a bunch of people around that would test your games. But mostly we played Dota. But also, as a club, you could like book time at any of the lecture halls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so setting up in the middle of the lecture hall with the big projector up, the lights off, just jamming away on the drums as loud as possible.
Awesome.
To maps, specifically.
Yeah, because it's a great song.
Yeah.
And it's fun to play. Oh, speaking of which, didn't they just come out with like a new DJ game?
Fuser? I've been playing it.
Fuser, yeah, where you can come up with like some extremely cursed mixes.
You really can. Oh my god, Jolene does not translate to a lot of other things.
But I'd be interested in finding out.
Well, sometimes,
Wait,
okay,
in
so the
what
crowd
way?
in the game makes requests. They're like, I would love to hear the vocal track from Jolene. And I'm like, okay. Nah. It's not good.
Like they're just trying to make sure you're rounded as a player.
No, it's to hype the crowd.
Yeah. Fuser's a lot like Drop Mix, but without like all of the
Having to buy cards.
card-based stuff, is my understanding. But you're a DJ.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
there's the different instrument breakdowns, and then you can do some things with the discs, but also they have instrument pads, which is a thing I've finally unlocked. So you can get like a 8-bit drum pad, and you can like play with that while you're doing your mixes.
Nice.
The crowd loves it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was this month years old when I learned that you can use the Rock Band keytar controller as a MIDI controller.
Oh,
So now
yeah.
that's pretty much the only thing on my desk.
I think Ian has a set of the MIDI drums still. Does he?
No.
He did when you guys were back in Edmonton. He did.
Yes, we got rid of a bunch of the Guitar Hero stuff when we moved. I did find recently one of the foam DDR pads still wrapped up, but no, it crinkled a lot when I moved it.
Oh.
Yeah, those pads do not. The wiring moves around a lot in them, and they're generally not good for very long.
Yikes.
It's you were telling me about how people reviewed Fuser, that if you wanted to try to score like high scores, you end up making you're basically
if you're trying to like 4 or 5 star the song, you end up and you're playing for points, I guess.
Yeah.
Then you can end up making some really terrible sounding mixes, is my understanding.
Yep. But you can also get like point boosts by just muting and unmuting a disc on the downbeat.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's what I've heard. I've not tried it.
Fuser has All-Star.
Yes.
So you can just ruin every song
The very
by
first
crudely taping All-Star over top of it.
the first mission in the campaign makes you play Never Gonna Give You Up.
Give the people what they want.